What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. And I wanted to make a video today for you all reviewing Missouri versus Georgia, since I did not do a pregame or a postgame or anything like that. I've been pretty busy the past couple weeks. I'm home for the last couple weeks, so I've been enjoying that, and videos and content have kind of been put on the back burner, but I've got some free time and I wanted to give out my thoughts on this Mizzou versus Georgia game. Of course, Missouri fell to the Georgia Bulldogs by a final score of 30-21. And there's really two ways to look at this game and how it ended. You can either be happy that Missouri kept it close and looked like they belonged on the same field as the best team in the country, or you can be upset and disappointed because Mizzou had an opportunity to knock off Georgia yet again this year. They came up short, and now their goal of winning the SEC East seems fairly out of reach now. Honestly, regardless of the stance you have on this game, I don't really think either one is necessarily wrong. But in my honest opinion, I'm coming out of that game feeling pretty good. Sure, would I have liked to win? Am I a little upset that Mizzou could not pull off the upset? Sure, but this is what Georgia does, man. They're the better team. You know, Mizzou can beat them on the right day. I believe that. I think they're capable of it. Had a couple calls gone their way, and Brady Cook doesn't throw the worst interception he's had this season, Mizzou may have very well won that game. But we can play that game all day. I also would have felt pretty good about Mizzou's chances of winning had that game been at home instead of in Athens, but you obviously can't control that. I'm proud of the way that this team went out there and fought, and even when Georgia seemed to be pulling away just a little bit, Mizzou scores a touchdown to begin the fourth quarter to make it really interesting. They had the ball with a chance to take the lead about halfway through the fourth quarter, and I think that just shows you that this team is really freaking good. That isn't just Georgia overlooking them for the second straight year. That's not what this was. Georgia was well aware of the team that Missouri was coming into this game. Missouri was ranked number 12 in the college football playoff rankings. Kirby Smart, the Georgia head coach, he's been very high on Mizzou. Even in the post-game interview, they went up to him, and before anything, he said that Missouri is a really good team. They're a tough opponent. You can tell that Drinkwitz and Kirby Smart both have a lot of respect for each other, and I think Kirby knows that this is a matchup that is going to be determining the SEC East for the next several years. Missouri is a team on the come-up. Kirby Smart recognizes that, and a lot of respect coming from him, and I like to hear that. I like to see that from him. But back to the game. It would have been awesome had Missouri won, but they didn't. And in the end, the better team did win. Georgia is the better team, and with a team like Georgia, most of the time, no matter who the opponent is, they're going to find a way to win. A lot of you who follow me or subscribe to me, you guys know that I'm a Chiefs fan. A lot of you are also Chiefs fans. We can kind of make that connection to the Chiefs, where the Chiefs, and a lot of times, will get into dogfights with other teams, and some bad teams too. But in the end, the Chiefs would just always find a way to pull out the victory. That's all they really care about. They're not flashy all the time. I think Georgia has kind of become the same way, in which they know they can beat anybody they want, and they don't have to necessarily play their A game every time. They're just trying to survive until the playoff. But the encouraging part from this is I think Georgia was trying to play their best game possible. They knew the threat that was Missouri, but Missouri went toe-to-toe with them. And they had Georgia on their heels there in the fourth quarter. And that is a testament to this team. It still shows a lot of progress despite the fact that Mizzou cannot pull out the win because, well, sure, we saw Mizzou almost upset Georgia last year at home when they weren't that good, but this year they went on the road to Athens in front of a very loud Georgia crowd, and they nearly pulled off the upset, guys, in Athens, because that is one area in which Eli Drinkwitz's teams have struggled since he's been the head coach. Mizzou teams with Eli Drinkwitz have been pretty bad on the road since he's been here, but to get those guys up and ready to take on a team like Georgia on the road and not even look scared at all, I think that's a true testament to Drinkwitz as the head coach. And ultimately the reason why I'm not upset by the result of the game all that much is because, sure, the SEC East probably not happening this year. But at the same time, no one thought of Mizzou as an SEC East contender coming into this year. All this year was about was seeing whether or not Drink was the right guy. That's all this year was about. We've seen through 9 games that Drinkwitz is the guy for this program. That question has been answered. Drinkwitz was 500 for the past couple years. People were starting to get a little impatient. You go back, you asked people last year what their opinion was of Eli Drinkwitz, and you ask them now. It is a night and day difference. Everyone is in on the guy. He's got this program rolling. Everything is moving in the right direction. People are starting to take notice, and despite the loss, people are starting to pay attention to Mizzou. Mizzou has played Georgia closer than anybody over the past, 2 or 3 years? Like, Mizzou is a true threat, a challenge to Georgia for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing after that game. Mizzou is a program on the come up. But all this year was about was seeing whether or not Eli Drinkwitz was the right guy. And I think we have our answer. He is the right guy to lead this program. And I just think it takes time, guys. And I was preaching this even last year. You have to be patient. This is going to take time. Mizzou cannot afford to keep recycling coaches every 4 years or getting rid of one guy and then bringing in the other without letting them have a chance to build their own program. And I know people are going to argue about the transfer portal and how it shouldn't take that long with the transfer portal. But even the transfer portal, I think people rely on a little too much. Sometimes it's a Band-Aid fix, and Mizzou has utilized the portal to fix positions with a Band-Aid. But I think you're starting to see the talent that Drinkwitz has brought in hit the field, and they're starting to make an impact. Drinkwitz's own recruits. And I just think you let him continue to build this thing and stack talent. And look, if Mizzou does, in fact, finish 10-2, 9-3, which is kind of the expectation at this point, Mizzou's going to be able to hit it off in the transfer portal this offseason in a way that they haven't been able to in the past couple off seasons. Drinkwitz has gotten some guys out of the portal, but that's been with 6-6 seasons, 500 seasons. I am really excited to see what Drinkwitz can do in the portal this offseason after going 10-2, 9-3, because then he really has a foundation to sell recruits on, and that is awesome. It's very exciting for this program. I know a lot of people hate the moral victory stuff. You wanted to beat Georgia. We're beyond the point of moral victories with Drinkwitz, with Mizzou. Your team in the SEC, there's no excuses. But Georgia is one of the best teams in college football, and they have been over the past few years. They were the better team. Mizzou put up a fight against them, despite the fact that there's still a pretty big talent gap between the two programs. I think Drinkwitz is starting to shut the door a little bit on that, or, shut the door on that gap when it comes to talent. But you didn't want to go out there and look like Kentucky, where the game was over after the first quarter. And Mizzou, they put up a fight all the way through. If I do have one negative to talk about after this game, though, Brady Cook. He has exceeded expectations this year. He shut me up at times. He has been the quarterback that this team needed him to be last year, and probably a little bit more. However, if there is one alarming thing coming out of this game, it's that in Mizzou's two biggest games, LSU and Georgia, games in which Mizzou has asked Brady Cook to be great, games in which Mizzou has asked Brady Cook to simply drive down the field and give Mizzou a shot to win the game, he has folded very badly. He threw that bad interception. He threw to a defensive lineman in the numbers. I don't even know how you do that. I don't know what he was seeing there. But you absolutely cannot have that, because you had a chance to take the lead on Georgia. You'd converted a 2-point conversion the drive before, and to go out and do that the next drive, man, that's just, it stings. It stings really badly. And then against LSU, he had the interception right before the end of the first half. He kind of became a different quarterback after that in that game. And then he threw another interception to end that game. And then the fumble, all that stuff. It's kind of hard to pin any sort of blame on Brady Cook, because he's been really good this year, and again, exceeded expectations, and now it feels like maybe we're asking a little bit too much of him. But in games against teams like Georgia and LSU, you simply cannot be as careless with the ball as Brady Cook was against those two teams. You cannot turn the ball over multiple times against teams like Georgia and LSU and expect to win. You just can't. This team very well could have beat Georgia, but the turnovers have to stop. Brady Cook, he started out the first, 5 games or whatever without throwing an interception, and since then, he's starting to throw those dumb passes again. Those types of passes that make you question whether or not Brady Cook can read a defense. And it's just a little bit discouraging. I don't like to see it. I hope Brady Cook cleans it up, but it does sting a little bit because you had a chance to upset Georgia. You had a chance to take the lead, and then we would have been talking about the college football playoff. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll be talking about the college football playoff this year from Mizzou. And that always sucks when you're knocked out of that race. But there's still a lot to play for this year. You go 10-2, you're probably looking at a New Year's Six bowl. If you go 9-3, probably not a New Year's Six bowl, but still a fairly high bowl game. That's still a huge step forward going 9-3. I think fans are expecting 10-2 though, because if you almost beat Georgia and you're 7-2 at this point of the season, you're a top 15 team. You should probably beat Tennessee next week at home. I think that's one you got to have. Tennessee has also been a thorn in the side of Drinkwitz since he's been the head coach, so it would be nice to see them overcome that demon and win that game. And then Florida and Arkansas, barring disaster, you should beat both those teams handily. So that would be looking at 10-2. And I think that's the expectation at this point. Mizzou, they're not favored against Tennessee, which is a little bit surprising, but I was going to say they should be favored in every game to end the season. But it's whatever, man. STP, something to prove. That's what this team's motto has been all year, and I don't mind Tennessee being favored whatsoever. Just come back at home next week, bounce back from that loss against Georgia, and I still think fans are extremely happy with the way this season has gone and is going, despite that loss to Georgia. But yeah, guys, those are my thoughts on Missouri's loss to Georgia this past weekend. I want to hear your thoughts, though, in the comments. Are you satisfied with the results of Saturday's game? Are you disappointed? Just what are your feelings? Do you agree with me, disagree with me on anything? Let me know down below. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. MIZ.